Well, welcome to this tutorial on your GNC2, your GNC2 or GIC2 project, and we're going to talk about the two columns on your risk assessment. So these columns here, so this is 2.5, what are you already doing to control the risks? What further actions do you need to take to control the risks? Now these two columns are worth a total of 20 marks. That's a lot of marks. That's 20% of your whole project. And these are very easy marks to get. So please pay attention to this. It's so easy. So you're like a third of your way to passing if you can get this right. Now they're worth 20 marks in total. The way it's marked is like this. You will get 1 mark for your existing controls, so this column here, and you will get another mark, a second mark for your further actions, this column here. So that's 2 marks in total per hazard. So here I've got a noise hazard. I can get 1 mark for this and 1 mark for that. So 2 marks. You have 10 hazards. They're worth 2 marks each. That's your 20 hazards. Now, how do you get that 1 mark in each box? All you have to do is write down a control that is relevant to the hazard and specific and reasonably effective. So relevant, specific, and effective. That's what we want. Yep. Strictly speaking, you can, at current time of filming, you can get away with just 1 control in your existing control column to get that mark. And you can get away with just 1 further action in your further action column to get that 1 mark. However, I do not encourage you to do that. I encourage you to write more for 2 reasons. Firstly, that control or action you write down might not satisfy the examiner. It might not be relevant. It might not be specific enough. It might not be very effective. So the examiner might think, no, I'm not giving the mark for that. So it's better to write more. It's better to write a few more. You can write as many as you like. You don't need to write lots, but maybe write 3 or 4 controls down, 3 or 4 further actions. That would actually also be in the spirit of the assessment, because it matters. You are learning to be a safety professional, or at least you're learning to be someone who can do risk assessments. So my recommendation is don't half-heart this and just put like 1 control in 1 column, 1 control in the other column. Yes, you can pass if you do that, you can get the marks, but it's a bit of a risky strategy and it's not in the spirit of the assessment, and it's not going to help you learn how to do a proper risk assessment. Let's take a look at the one I've got here. So I've got a noise hazard here. So exposed to loud 90 decibel noise over 2 hours from the benchtop grinders. Good hazard. It's all about noise in here. And what I've written down, I've got the existing controls. And the first thing is I want you to notice that they're relevant. They're relevant. They're all about the noise. There's nothing about a different hazard. There's no guarding in here. There's no protection from the dust or from the sparks. There are no safety glasses on a noise hazard. It's all relevant to noise. First thing. Second thing is they're all very specific. Like here, there's if I zoom in a bit, this is about the PPE and the training. Notice I haven't just written PPE. I haven't just written training. I haven't just written they've got PPE. I haven't just written they've been trained. No, I've been more specific. I've been specific by saying what type of PPE. They've got hearing protection. That's a type of PPE, isn't it? When you say PPE, is it safety shoes? Like safety glasses? Hard hats? No. Let's be specific on the type of PPE. And let's try and just talk a little bit more about what they're trained on. If you provided them with training, what have they been trained in? Well, in this case, they've been trained to wear the hearing protection. Right, that's different to training in the risk from noise exposure. Training in the noise hazards, training in the risk of noise exposure. That's a slightly different type of training. Here they've been trained to use the hearing protection. We've got the workshop is a designating hearing protection zone. Again, it's relevant, it's specific. The question is, are these things effective? They are effective to a point. Hearing protection is effective to a point. It's not very effective, is it? So there's a question mark here. Is the examiner going to award a mark for that? Well, in my opinion, they should, but maybe a harsh examiner, a very examiner who's like, no, like PPE is rubbish. They should award a mark, but they might skip that. They think, PPE, hearing protection zone, PPE, signage, yeah, it's an administrative control. Like, come on, like we can do more, we can do better than an administrative control. It's not, a sign is not very effective, come on. Then they get to here and they read, the door of the machine shop is designed to reduce the levels of noise transmitted outside of the workshop, protecting those outside. And the examiner now goes, ha aha, that's an engineering control. That's effective. This one is specific, it's relevant, and it's effective. They will definitely award a mark for that. Now, I think they will award a mark for the others as well, but try to use that hierarchy of control. Try to eliminate, substitute, engineer things out if you can. Those should guarantee the mark if you write it really well. So 1 mark for this column now. I get 1 mark for that. Right, let's look at the other column here. What further actions do you need to do to control the risk? Now, this is stuff in the future. Just to be clear, this column here, what you're already doing, this is phrased in the present tense. Yeah, go back to school and remember your grammar. Present tense, it's things you are doing now, today, like this is in place already. The further actions are things phrased in the future, and you use a special grammatical tense here. It's called the imperative. Use the imperative tense, like do this, do that, stop this, get this, install that, buy this, train on this, implement this. Can you see the use of the imperative tense? It's an order. Let's look at some of these orders. Get, that's the imperative. Get a specialist contractor to install noise absorbent insulation on the interior walls of the workshop to reduce reverberation. Right. Is that relevant to noise? Definitely. Is it specific? Definitely. I've actually said that it's on the interior walls of the workshop. Like, I'm telling them where to install this noise insulation. I haven't just said install noise insulation. Like, where? Like, on the interior walls of the workshop. Yeah, it's specific. Is it effective? Yes, it's an engineering control. It's definitely effective. Definitely. Sorry, excuse the bad pun there. Def, noise. Yeah, you get it. Install flame-proof noise absorbent barriers between each machine station to protect the stations directly next to it. Is it relevant? Well, flame-proof, what's that doing in there? Noise absorbent, yes, it is relevant. These are noise absorbent barriers. Is it specific? Yeah, it's flame-proof noise absorbent barriers between each station. Yeah, that's specific enough. And is it effective? Yes, it's an engineering control. Okay, so that's the sort of thing you have to do. Now, there's a question here, and the question's this. What if, Will? What if my hazard is already well controlled? What if, basically, what I want to write in here is something like this. Risk under control. No further action needed. What do I do then, Will? Do I get a mark for that? And the answer is no. No. You get nul point, no marks for writing that. What do you do then? You then have to write something to show how you are going to maintain or monitor these controls here. You have to maintain or monitor these controls here to get this mark. So we are going to monitor that people are wearing the hearing protection, for example. So we will say, carry out weekly checks that operators are wearing their hearing protection. Done. That is a form of monitoring the hearing protection. That will work. That should get a mark. There's another type of monitoring you can do for noise as well. Let's write it down here. We'll say carry out annual noise exposure monitoring through an external noise consultant. There we go. That would be another way of monitoring that noise exposure is not at an unsafe level. You could also do health surveillance as well. It could be hire an external company to carry out annual audiometry on all operators. That's another way of monitoring it. So put down 1 or 2 ways of monitoring. Could include auditing, inspections, that kind of thing. Now just be warned though, again, these have to be relevant and they have to be specific. So relevant as in we don't want just, let's do inspections, let's do audits. No, like inspect what? Audit what? Like they have to be relevant and they have to be specific. Notice that these I'm doing checks on people wearing hearing protection. I'm doing health surveillance on their ears, their hearing. I'm not just monitoring, I'm doing noise exposure monitoring. It's got to be relevant. Because here's the thing, you might think that you can use inspections for every single hazard. You do inspections for noise, and then you'll have, let me zoom out, you've got inspections for radiation, inspections for manual handling, inspections for the load handling equipment, and inspections for the hazardous substances and the welding fumes. Like, if you use the exact same method of monitoring for each of your hazards, you're not going to get the marks. The examiner will say, you've already said that. I'm not going to give you another mark for yet another inspection. So make your monitoring relevant to the hazard. tweak the type of inspection, tweak the type of monitoring to suit what it is. Anyway, I hope you found that helpful. Very, very easy column. Just follow those instructions. You don't have to overdo it, but put a bit of work in just to make sure you absolutely smash the full 20 marks.